the investigation will be partly led by Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, who will be joining us a little bit later on. Definitely looking forward to that, Rob and Allison.
Yeah, Alex, so am I. It's been a rough start to the week. So Joe Biden gets a poll from CNN Friday. It's got his approval rating at 39%. He skips 9/11 ceremonies on Monday, holds a brutal press conference in Vietnam on Sunday, and yesterday the House announces they're launching an impeachment inquiry. It's been a rough 5 days for President Biden, and this is only going to hurt if this does happen. Leaders of the United Auto Workers Union are now considering strikes at a small number of factories as the Thursday night deadline to make a deal with Detroit's big three automakers approaches tomorrow.
And joining us now to break it all down is car dealership owner Tom Maoli, a business and markets analyst and Newsmax contributor Seth Denson. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Tom, I'll start with you. So we don't know if this is going to happen, but how are these strikes going to affect not only car dealerships, but people looking to buy a car?
You know, listen, at the end of the day, it's the public and the consumer that gets crushed with this. You know, what the unions are asking for is unsustainable. They're asking for a 46% pay hike, a 32-hour work week, which is a 20% cut in production when production's at its all-time low. And, you know, and now they're trying to renegotiate they're trying to get down to 15% pay increase. But the reality of it is what's sucking the life out of the car manufacturers and the OEMs is this EV agenda. You know, it's pulling cash out of them big time. They would be able to give these workers an increase, but it's the EV agenda from the Biden administration that's sucking the life out of it. You know, Ford had record profits last month, but they're looking, you know, what they're not looking at is they're going to lose $4.5 billion on this EV agenda this year, trying to ramp up for an agenda that the consumer doesn't even want. They're not buying into it. I own multiple car dealerships. We have EVs sitting all over the lots. The consumer does not want it. And you know, if the unions do pull the strike, what really is going to happen is it's going to crush the supply chain. And you know, it's the repairs that really suffer, because people need to get their children to school. They need to get to work.
Yeah. Right.
They're going to shut down the transportation system.
So this is, Seth, I don't understand why these unions are still pro-Democrat. I think that it was just laid out beautifully by Tom. Basically, all they're trying to do is put these auto workers out of business through automation, green energy, and electric cars. They want these cars to be fully automated in production by 2030. The Wall Street Journal poll that just came out has Joe Biden's approval rating, Seth, on the economy at 37%. People are feeling this in their wallets. Take us through what this means.
Well, it's just an expansion of that. I mean, if this strike goes through, Rob, what we will likely see is a reduction in the output of about 100,000 vehicles per week. Now, we don't have to go all that far back to remember during the pandemic the fact that automobiles came off the production line as well, a lot because of microchip shortages and issues with supply chain. But this would be different. This would be forced. And what we saw during that time was used car prices go up 40%. And Tom alluded to that. Here's the reality. If this does go through, whatever the costs are, I say it all the time, margins don't erode, they get moved, and they get moved to the consumer. So the price of new cars will go up because of the impact of the supply chain and the production line. Used car prices will go up as well, and that's going to be a challenge specifically on the consumer that's already in a bad situation because of this inflation.
Yeah, Tom, do prices go up on cars if this lasts a while?
Of course, everything's going to, and he's right, everything's going to move. The margins just move. And, you know, listen, cars are already up 25% from pre-COVID levels. The consumer's getting crushed. They're coming into the dealerships and looking at payments that used to be $400, and now they're $850, because between the increased cost of the vehicle and the interest rates that are currently in place, the consumer cannot sustain it. And then, you know, when the administration is pushing this EV agenda, you know, an EV is probably 20% more expensive than a gas-run car, and then they have to go out and they have to install a charger in their house, get an electrician out. You know, the whole thing is unsustainable, and the consumer is really sucking wind with it.
Yeah.
You know, Seth, I think about the economic effect, as you mentioned. You know, these EV cars that the Biden administration is essentially just telling everyone you should have an electric vehicle, but don't they cost like $60,000? I mean, Americans are already feeling it in their wallet, yet they want Americans to trade in their car and get an electric car. It just doesn't seem to make sense, especially when we're living paycheck to paycheck.
Not to mention all the rare earth minerals that we need from places like China and other non-friendly countries, and what it takes to produce those rare earth minerals. No one likes to talk about that, Seth.
Right. No, they don't, and that's the reality. We're beholden upon China and some of our what we call not so friendly nations to supply the goods and services. And again, I'm all for the expansion of EV where it makes sense, but you got to walk and chew gum at the same time and realize that that just doesn't happen overnight. And those that can afford EV vehicles are likely not in the bracket that many Americans are. And so, unfortunately, yes, as Tom said, the cost of building these cars is more. That means that gets passed to the consumer.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've got to continue on with what we've got while we're expanding in other areas.
All right, gentlemen, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you both being with us. Tom, thank you. We'll pick this conversation up again soon. Seth, we'll see you in the next hour live from a luxury hotel in Midtown Charlotte, North Carolina.
I think that's where you are. I don't know if we're supposed to reveal
if
his
you have
location.
a couch in your hotel room, things are going well, Seth. We'll see you in just a little bit. Coming up next this morning on Wake Up America, President Biden